Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to week two. Hope you had a great weekend and hope your first week was wonderful as well. The first week, just a quick recap, is that we looked at the rules for working with whole numbers. And just a quick reminder, whole numbers are those numbers that we count with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, on and on and on. And you looked at, various properties dealing with whole numbers, like the commutative property or associative property. And those properties really sort of help you out if, you don't have your calculator handy on you. You looked at the process for rounding and things like that. So hope you found that the material for the first week was relatable, stuff that you use in your everyday life. I think you're going to find the same here for week two. Week two, you see here are the learning outcomes on the screen, but probably the biggest point of emphasis that we'll see here is this notion of dealing with what we call signed numbers. Basically, that means working with positives and negatives. And you're going to learn the rules and kind of relearn the rules, if you will, of how to add, subtract, multiply, divide positives and negatives. When they're the same sign, when they're different signs, you're going to go through the different scenarios and permutations. And then you're going to apply those rules to a variety of different kinds of numbers, positive and negative whole numbers, or integers, we call positive and negative fractions, positive and negative decimals. So you're going to work with the different kinds of numbers and their signed nature. Now, why do we do this? Funny enough, and it's interesting at least, and why I say funny, is that we take for granted the notion of positive and negative, but positive and negative didn't always exist way back during the times of the Greeks, and who developed a lot of mathematics, and even the ancient Persians and Arab cultures who developed algebra didn't have this concept of negatives. They didn't understand or have any real need for negatives, if you will. It wasn't until the creation of the financial system, banking and money and currency, that we needed to have this way of negative, because in our modern day world, we understand what negative means. You owe someone money, your money's leaving your bank account. That's a debit out of your bank account. It's a negative, a minus. And so mathematics developed to incorporate that notion of, you know, out of need, hey, we owe someone money, or that's kind of where it started out at. But we see negatives all over the place. We see negatives in temperature. We see negatives in below sea level, things like that. So when you think of all the scenarios where you see positives or negatives, one of the things you may want to start looking at is, or relating it to, is the negative or the positive indicates movement. Movement. Think about your bank account. Positive is money coming into your account. Negative is money leaving your account. So you can start thinking of these signs as movement from one place to another. That's one of the aspects of negatives that we use. Uh, Negative can also mean direction. Think about it this way. Let's go back to the sea level and the elevation. When you're below sea level, sea level is kind of like right here at the horizon. When you're below sea level, you're moving downwards. That's in a negative direction. Whereas if you're above sea level, you're moving upwards in a positive direction. So the takeaway here is you're going to learn the rules for how to work with positive and negatives. But in the problem-solving context, in the interpretation context, oftentimes positive and negative have a very specific meaning. Meaning, in some instances, it means movement, something moving from one place to another or one direction, or it could also mean a position, above, below, things of that nature. So I hope you find this material helpful. This is sort of a foundational unit, just like last week. This is a foundational unit because what we're doing is we're gearing you up and setting you up to start looking at the order of operations for next week. And so in this week, you're going to you're going to not only learn sign numbers, but you're also going to learn more exponents, and you're going to also learn how to deal with what we call the absolute value, which deals with position and distance. So this week and next week are the foundational units to build you up and support you for next week when we do order of operations. So I hope you find this one helpful. Let me know if you have any questions about working with positive and negatives and the various rules that come into play. I'm going to give you some examples as we work together in the discussion board. Look forward to working with you. I hope you have a great week. Bye-bye.